There we go, Chair.
Good afternoon, members, officers, anybody looking in. Welcome to the Learning and Scrutiny Learning and Skills meeting of Wednesday, 29th of March. An afternoon meeting online, totally online. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Members, we've had a few. Kath, are you just happy to read them out, please?
Yes, no problem. We've had apologies from Councillor David Selby, portfolio holder for Prosperous Powys with responsibility for the RSP, Councillor Jackie Charlton, portfolio holder for Greener Powys, Dr. Caroline Turner, CEO, Georgie Bevan, Head of Education, and Councillor Liz and Sarah Davies will be joining a bit later.
Yep, thank you. Members, are you aware of any others? I've had comment from Councillor Bryn, who said he's joining us, will have to leave, and Councillor David has said that he has to leave the meeting at 3:30. Any other comments and apologies? No, if you're happy to accept them apologies, I'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is disclosures of interest. Can't imagine somebody will have a disclosure on today's meeting, but if they have, please declare now. And similarly, item 3 on the agenda, declarations of party whip. Members, if anybody has anything to declare, please declare now. Thank you. I don't believe we have any minutes to sign up today, do we, Kath?
Yes, we have the minutes of the 18th of January.
Right, okay, they're not on my agenda, so
okay.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. Members, have you had sight of those minutes?
Yep.
Yeah, are you happy to sign them?
Happy to propose those are signed off.
Second them?
Second.
And judging on your silence, all in favour? Thank you. Are there any comments on them minutes?
No.
No, great. If that's the case, we'll move on to the Mid Wales Education Partners business plan. It's pages 3 to 22 in your pack, comprehensive documents. Anwen Orals, who we know well, will be taking us through this, but I believe give an opportunity to Councillor Peat and Lynette to make a comment prior to that. Councillor Peat first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Scrutiny, for taking this opportunity to look at the Memorandum of Understanding and the business plan for the Mid Wales Education Partners. This is an initiative set up between ourselves and Ceredigion County Council as a result of the collapse of Eru 18 months ago. I'm going to pass you across to Lynette, our Director of Education, to take you through a little bit of this in terms of the background, and then pass you across to Anwen, who is the lead for the partnership, to take you through the documentation. So Lynette, all yours.
Thank you, Councillor Peat, and thank you, Chair. Before Anwen presents the report to you today, I'll just give you a little bit of background, which does feature in your report today in 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 and 2.4. I'm aware that there are some new members on scrutiny, so I will just touch on the background here, as it is vital information to the setting up of the Mid Wales Education Partnership. So the Mid Wales Education Partnership was born out of, as Councillor Peat has just said, the collapse and termination of Eru. As you can see from your report in 2.3, Eru was an alliance of 6 local authorities delivering school improvement services as part of the 2013 National Model for Regional Working for School Improvement, which is in 2.1 of your report explaining the national model. As a result of the termination of Eru, this became an opportunity to develop a different model for Mid Wales, which has been endorsed indeed by Welsh Government. We are not a regional consortium as Eru was. but a partnership based on a memorandum of understanding, of which Anwen will explain as she takes us through her presentation. The partnership ensures our seat at all national and regional fora. We are recognised as a partnership at that national level. The partnership has developed over the last 18 months to the point now of securing the post of strategic lead for the Mid Wales Education Partnership, of which Anwen Orrells was successful in the appointments process there, and she took up her post, having previously worked in the school service year in Powys, but took up her post as a strategic lead for the Mid Wales Education Partnership in January of this year, 2023. So we are a relatively new partnership, having developed our work over the past year to 18 months, and we welcome the opportunity today for this committee to scrutinise the work and the plans of Mid Wales Education Partnership as we move forward. So diolch Councillor Pete and diolch Chair for allowing me to give you some of that background as to why we are where we are and the opportunities we have with the Mid Wales Education Partnership. Diolch Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pete and Lynette. Welcome, Anwen. Congratulations on your appointment, and I'm sure you're excited about this. Anwen, I'm handing over to you now, and you're obviously sharing straight away, so great. We'll leave it in your hands. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Hopefully you can see it. So diolch y galon chi gyd am y croeso heddiw. Thank you all very much for the welcome and the opportunity to take you through the work of the Mid Wales Education Partnership. So thank you, Lynette, for introducing. So I'll just quickly take you through the first elements of the report, where I've outlined the purpose of today's scrutiny. So hopefully you're all happy with this, that we want to establish an understanding and full awareness of the work of the Mid Wales Education Partners, whilst it's so new and not fully understood quite yet by all. And the importance of the partnership is the memorandum of understanding that we have between ourselves, Powys and Ceredigion, which sets out clearly the democratic accountability of the partnership. And the memorandum I've shared with you will cover the period of 2023 through to 2026. I'd also like to work with you today to review the work and the impact of the Mid Wales Education Partners collaboration for both the school services of Powys and Ceredigion for the last financial year of 22-23. And then I'd like to finally introduce you to the work that we're proposing to undertake for the next financial year, completely in line with the national and local priorities. So as Lynette has rightly said on Councillor Pete, we are in our infancy, and we were formed following the demise of Aero back in August 2021. Working together with Ceredigion under the Memorandum of Understanding has really importantly allowed us a seat at the national table. And when I say a seat at the national table, what I mean is that we fully influence the direction of education policy for Wales, but also we're fully involved with the development of new resources and school support. So we're there actively involved in a big part of the work undertaken. Under the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding that you can see as one of the appendices, Appendix A today, you will see that through all the elements, and I hope that you've had time to look at it, because it does form the basis of our working together with Powys, that it clearly sets out how both local authorities will collaborate and cooperate effectively together. The important element of ensuring full accountability for our work and the impact of our work, to ensure that we're open and honest with each other at all times as we work together, and ensure that we meet all the statutory requirements and share the best practice which we have across Powys and Ceredigion, and all of this in a timely manner. So I would, towards the end, if you've any comments, welcome any comments on the Memorandum of Understanding that will be taken to Cabinet of both Powys and Ceredigion for agreement in April. Just a quick overview of our work. So firstly and foremostly, we still have 2 separate school improvement services. So that's under the work of Georgie Bevan, Head of Education, and Maynir Ebsworth as the Lead of Education in Ceredigion, 2 school separate improvement services. But as a Mid Wales Education Partnership, we're able to add additional capacity and support for our schools through collaborating very, very closely together and through joint professional learning. And the areas that we work together on are the areas of curriculum reform, which encompasses that of the Curriculum for Wales, the leadership pathways, which incorporates the national programme, but also the bespoke elements I'll be discussing with you later today. The important work of supporting the induction of newly qualified teachers, and also the exciting pilot that we're undertaking here across the Mid Wales Education Partnership to support the teachers in years 2, 3, 4 and 5 of their early career in teachers, to make sure that we support our own professionals and nurture them to start their career well in Powys and Ceredigion, but also to make sure it's one where we identify the career pathways. But I will explain more on that one later for you. We also support the HLTAs and teaching assistants in their development as well. And the really, really important element that we work together on, which is a national and local priority, is that of reducing the impact of rural deprivation, ensuring equity and the best well-being for all our learners and practitioners across Powys and Ceredigion. Now, by working together, even though we're still in our infancy, it's already beginning to show its full strength and successes, because it gives that breadth and depth of support that we can provide across both local authorities. And I think if I give you one example, I still support in my role Ysgol Bro Hyddgen. And one element, as you all know, Ysgol Bro Hyddgen is moving along the language continuum, is that we've been able to use the numeracy support that's available through the medium of Welsh in Ceredigion to support Powys schools, but also the way that Powys schools and our officers with their own expertise have been able to support Ceredigion schools, such as that of the RVE policy. So we can see that we're broadening and deepening the support available for our schools. Now, this is section 4 of your report, but I thought rather than before I go into full detail, I'll just quickly give you an overview of the funding. We are fully funded by the Welsh Government Regional Consortia grant, the RCG grant. But the way it's different for us in Powys and Ceredigion to the other regions is that the grant comes direct to us as a local authority, to both Powys and Ceredigion. So it gives us full autonomy to use the grant according to the terms and conditions, of course, but also exactly to the way that Powys and Ceredigion deem best for our schools and school services. So just as a quick overview, based on our PLASC, which is the report that we do annually to Welsh Government detailing pupil numbers, Ceredigion will receive 708,330 for the next financial year, and indicative figures for Powys for the next financial year is £1,107,064. So that's fully grant funded and a full accountability for every penny that we spend, which brings me nicely into the evaluation of our work. So annually, we have to submit a business plan to Welsh Government, and that will be submitted. It's about 90% ready and will be submitted to Welsh Government next month for their approval. We also then attend on an annual basis challenge and review meetings with Welsh Government, where Lynette and Maynir, the Chief Education Officers of both local authority, and myself will attend. We are always and annually scrutinised by Estyn in our work and the impact of our work. And as we are here today, attending both Powys and Ceredigion scrutiny committees. But after discussion as well, in the memorandum of understanding for this next 3 years, if you look the bottom bullet, we have actually put a caveat that if as members and scrutiny committees you feel that you would like us to return more than on an annual basis, that you'd like me to return mid-term or when something arises, so that you can ask and hold me to account on my work and the work of the officers, then that's in the memorandum of understanding, and I'd happily attend to answer any of your questions. We also, as well, on a termly basis, report to the CEO and portfolio holders of both Ceredigion and Powys. Now, in its first full year in 2022-23, the Mid Wales Education Partnership set forward 5 key priorities. That was based around implementing the curriculum for Wales. And if you look in the pack under section 2, you'll be aware that all primary schools adopted the curriculum for Wales for September 2022, so all primary, and then 6 secondary and all age schools from across both Powys and Ceredigion, 1 from Ceredigion, 5 from Powys, adopted in September 2022. But in September 23, all schools, primary, secondary, all age and specials, will be fully adopting the curriculum for Wales. So last year, and you'll see it for future years, it would be no shock that one of our key priorities was to support the work of our schools in implementing the curriculum for Wales. Secondly, and really, really importantly, nationally, but probably more importantly for us in Powys and Ceredigion, is the support from a national perspective, and also bespoke Powys and Ceredigion perspective, is the support for our professionals and our practitioners in their leadership and development pathways. And I will be giving you more detail about that work very, very shortly. We've also, across Powys and Ceredigion, realised that we are impacted by deprivation. It may be slightly different to some of the deprivation that you see perhaps in inner city Cardiff and Swansea, but we are impacted quite heavily by rural deprivation as well. And ensuring that all our learners succeed regardless of background, and ensuring equity and provision and strong well-being has been an important element of our work for this year and will go forward for the future. And then, of course, that support for our schools to ensure their support in that school improvement journey is there for them. And then number 5 is the one I call mine, which is to ensure strong governance and internal arrangements of the work. So I'll hopefully take you through all of them. So this covers mainly section 2 and especially section 2.12, where I'll take you through some of a quick overview of the impact we've had as a Mid Wales Education Partnership in our first year. So firstly, our area was to deliver the national universal learning and leadership programmes available for all our practitioners. So as an example, we're very, very proud and grateful that actually 14 leaders across Mid Wales Education Partnership, Powys and Ceredigion, gained their NPQH, their head teacher qualification, back this spring, which is a real bonus for us across Powys and Ceredigion. Of those 14, you'll be pleased to know 13 of them were from Powys, and that incorporated 9 successfully passing to be qualified and potential head teachers in the primary sector, 3 in the secondary, and 1 in special schools. So putting a Powys perspective to it, it's really, really important and encouraging to know that in waiting in the wings in Powys are leaders ready to take on the roles of headship across Powys. But you'll all know that even though our heads have passed their NPQH, when it comes to the new and acting head teachers that we have, they're fully qualified to lead on teaching and learning and to lead the profession on pedagogy, etc. But it is a big shock and a big stepping stone quite often when it comes to being a head teacher on elements such as finance, elements such as health and safety and asbestos elements, and of course, property safeguarding, etc. So across Mid Wales Education Partnership, we do have a very bespoke programme as well that we give in addition to the national programme to support the young and new and acting head teachers on a weekly basis with a catch-up over Teams where officers deliver, but also really, really importantly, that they can ask questions. So I've actually had experience of that from my previous role, where I attended quite a few times during this autumn term to answer questions from the new and acting head teachers about what they do with admissions, what about safeguarding. I was also leading on finance at that time and supporting property, so supporting with those questions as well around finance and the school funding formula and the property. So that's proving exceptionally beneficial. We've also identified for us in Powys, as I mentioned previously, when we have new members of staff to our Powys and Ceredigion schools, they don't tend to want to go anywhere. Once we're in a Powys or Ceredigion school, they're such lovely places to work that they don't move. So therefore, it's a really, really exciting period for us as a Mid Wales Education. And Welsh Government are fully supporting us and are really quite inquisitive and want to find out more about the success of this one at the end of the year. But we've been asked to undertake a pilot to support the development of early career teachers. That those are teachers in years 2, 3, 4 and 5 of their career. We want to help nurture them, to support them in their roles, but also to early identify young members of staff that could be potential middle leaders and senior leaders of the future. So that incorporates, we support them in induction, but when you come to year 2, it's quite a shock where you're teaching a full timetable, you're suddenly perhaps asked to lead an area within school, you're asked to evaluate the report, the work that you've done in your department. So through this bespoke and quite unique programme that we've developed, we're hoping to support the young staff of Powys and Ceredigion and to keep them, to nurture them and to develop them for the future. So that's an exciting programme that we're undertaking. Now, many of you as well are local authority governors, so you're fully aware of this element, the element of bespoke curriculum and wellbeing support that we provide all Powys and Ceredigion schools on a cluster level basis, on a whole local authority and partnership basis, but also really, really bespoke for clusters and for our individual schools. And many of you, if you are local authority governors, will be fully involved with the bespoke working together for the vision and curriculum plans, which the teams have been undertaking this year. And next year, we'll be taking that forward even further. So just to show that the work that we've been doing has had impact in the right way and has been acknowledged by Estyn. Just one example of many for you, that Ysgol Trefonen was inspected by Estyn back in July 2022. And one of the statements they had in the report linked to the work of the Mid Wales Education Partnership on the delivery of curriculum for Wales, where it states clearly that the preparation for the new curriculum is thorough and inclusive and takes account of the school's visions and values, which is really, really important, showing the impact of our work. We've also supported with wellbeing, and we're also delivering on the 6 areas of learning and understanding. And indeed, as I speak, we've got a network together of all Powys and Ceredigion practitioners who are leading on maths and numeracy. They're working together right now at the moment, sharing good practice, with primary and secondary and special school practitioners in place, supporting each other in the curriculum. And then lastly, but by no means least, our work to ensure the equity and success of all our learners. You may have heard the words RADI as you've come across your work with schools, but RADI stands for Raising the Attainment of Disadvantaged Learners, so RADI, and shares resources and support for our schools. Now, as a Mid Wales Education Partnership working across Powys and Ceredigion, both local authorities used their grant funding to fund the RADI programme last year. And I'm pleased to say that half Powys schools undertook the RADI approach and the support available next year. Last year, sorry, and next year we hope for the remaining half of the schools to fully engage with the programme. Now, one of the schools that did engage with the programme and have done for already a year is that of Ysgol Calan Cymru, and Ysgol Calan Cymru were inspected in October 2022 as well. And one of the areas that the inspectorate identified was that the leaders of Ysgol Calan Cymru had successfully implemented actions for reducing the impact of poverty on education attainment. Now, Estyn obviously cannot identify RADI as the individual element there, because otherwise every school would rush for the commercial package, but it was referencing the work of the RADI work there. And what Estyn carried on to say is that it's mainly through careful use of the Pupil Deprivation Grant, which is a Welsh Government grant for pastoral care, supplying free breakfast, funding educational visits, and securing bursaries from the local businesses and providing school uniform, has successfully supported their disadvantaged learners and all their learners. So just a quick flavour there for you of our work. And at this point, if you want, before I go any further, I will pause, take a breath and share, if it's okay, if there are any questions. Now, I'm afraid I can't see the chat at the moment, but if there are any questions for me.
Yeah, I'm not reading anything in the chat. Diolch yn fawr, Anwen. I think Anwen has answered many of our questions which we discussed in the pre-meet, but members, here's an opportunity to answer any queries and satisfy our concerns. Councillor David.
Yeah, I'm just concerned because ERA used to support schools as well, going through inspections, etc., preparing for inspections. Are we confident that we've got the right people in place to support schools, not only leading up to inspections, but post-inspections as well? You know, I've been involved in the school for many years. I'm no longer involved in that school, but I was really disappointed to see that they were still in special measures and really concerned. And I just wonder, what are we actually doing to make sure that schools like that are adequately supported? Have they not been supported sufficiently in the past? And where do we go in the future?
Anwen, is this something that the partnership can contribute to?
I'm guessing that Lynette may want to come back in, but if I start, thank you very much, Councillor David, for that question. Really important. Yes, it was a huge disappointment, and you are right that ERA would have supported in the past. But if I just take you back quickly to, I'm stop sharing for a minute so I can actually see your faces for a minute. As you all know, we are still two separate school improvement services, but our officers very much work together really closely on those 5 areas I identified at the beginning where we do collaborate. So the support actually for the curriculum for Wales is very bespoke and really does impact the schools quite heavily. Ironically, I know that there are officers in there today supporting from the Mid Wales Education Partnership. We support with the leadership programmes. So I do hope that all our schools engage with the leadership programmes and the bespoke programmes, and of course with the work of the RADI. Now, I'm not trying to get out of this, Councillor David, at all, but we are separate school improvement. So the work of the school, what you would recognise the SIAs, the school improvement advisors, is a separate element of the work, which would be governed by Powys and Ceredigion separately. Lynette, do you want to come back in there? But answer your question, am I confident in the officers we have? Absolutely, we are. And by using the breadth of expertise from Powys and Ceredigion, it does give that additional breadth of support available.
Go on, Lynette, please. I see you got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to say that what Anwen has mentioned there is this is a different model to the ERU model, and we do need to have confidence and assurance as we move forward that this new model is having the impact that we want. We recognise in Powys in particular that our area for improvement is around our secondary schools, and as you've rightly said there, Councillor Meredith, you know, we do have 2 schools that are secondary schools that are in special measures, and the support that we give to those schools is crucial to ensure that they move forward. And we also, just for your information, have 5 secondary schools that are due to be inspected within the cycle now before the summer of 2024. In terms of the Mid Wales partnership, the role that that the partnership provides is that support for schools, absolutely, where there are recognised needs, curriculum for Wales, professional learning, all of that is there. But the school improvement, you know, as we know it, with the school improvement advisors, as it did with ERU, actually, it was a different model to the other regions then. It was our own officers in the local authorities worked with our schools. That remains within the Mid Wales Education Partnership now, that the school improvement advisors are local authority employees and they work within the local authority. What we have done as well is in terms of our local authority teams, you'll know that within the local authority we have ALN teams, we have foundation phase advisory teachers, Welsh advisory teachers within the local authority. We also now have the secondary school improvement team who are working within the local authority. They can be shared across the partnership, but they are you know, the 5 areas that we focus on within the partnership or within the report and the slides. The support for school improvement is that from the Mid Wales Partnership, but also around our new secondary school improvement team and head of service, etc., within the local authority alongside that. So with Mid Wales Education Partnership enhancing, if you like, the work of the local authority, I think, you know, we do need to be able to demonstrate that impact of this work going forward and have our confidence within the officers that we've brought in. And know the Mid Wales Education Partnership is new. But in terms of the Mid Wales Education Partnership, just to give you the assurances that we are governed and we have had to take our business plan to Welsh Government and we have had to demonstrate impact. And also Estyn were in earlier this year to look at the Mid Wales Education Partnership specifically, and they were quite complimentary and heartened by the work that we've done within the Mid Wales Education Partnership to date. So, you know, we do feel we've got the support there available. What we do need to do is ensure we have the impact in our schools, in particular in our secondary schools as we move forward. And I would expect this committee rightly to challenge us on that work as we move forward.
Thank you, Lynette. David, do you wish to come back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely vital that we actually support these heads, because we don't want another catastrophic thing that happened in England where a head teacher took her life because of having an adverse inspection. And it does worry me that we have got support for these heads going forward. And I sincerely hope as well that the heads of these schools will take on board the advice given by authority staff as well, because that is vitally important. And I'm sure I'm sure all our schools head teachers will take the advice on board, and if they don't, I assume that there will be measures put in place to make sure they do.
Thank you, David. I'm going to go to Councillor Peters next on my list.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, and thank you, Enwyn, there for a very comprehensive presentation and explaining the amount of work that you are doing and you're planning to do. I am a new member to this committee and a fairly new councillor as well. So apologies perhaps for my a lack of understanding, if it could be that. But I think I was just trying to understand a bit more around the concept, if you like, of the partnership. And I may be totally wrong, but it sort of just seemed initially to me that it looks like it's an extra layer between Welsh Government and say the schools. And I think you said there was about £1.8 million worth of funding there coming from Welsh Government grants. And I just wondered how, or perhaps if that money could be better spent by going directly to the schools. Sorry if that sounds a bit clumsy. I don't know if I've framed that the right way, but yeah, be grateful if you could perhaps just flesh that out a bit more for me.
Chairs, okay, I think Lynette will come in, and then
Yep.
I might as well after as well. Yes.
Yeah, no, please,
Thank you,
please,
Councillor.
please speak freely in response to these questions. There's no need to come through the chair.
Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. There are 3 tiers within the education system. In the report, you'll see in 2.2 of the report that the Welsh education system is based on a 3-tier model. Tier 1 is the Welsh Government, and then obviously we've got Tier 2, which does consist currently of regional consortia, local authorities, etc. And then the 3rd tier is the school. And in terms of the funding, what is different, and where you're talking about the schools funding coming directly to the schools, when we were part of a region, Ero, the funding that we are now getting directly, as Anwen put on the slides, that £1 million now is coming directly to Powys, so we get our share and allocation directly to us. When we were part of a region, Ero, that funding was going to Ero, to then be disseminated to local authorities, to then be, allocated to schools accordingly. So in terms of the position we're in currently, is we are taking out by the funding now coming directly to the local authority, some of which the criteria is about going directly into schools. So there's an education improvement grant, for example, the pupil deprivation grant, the looked after child deprivation grant comes into us and is passported straight out into the schools. So within that funding, there it is passported, but in the Mid Wales Education Partnership now, the funding is coming directly to us as a local authority to then be passported out to the school. This is currently the national model and the tier system that we have in Wales. Thank you for that question. I don't know whether you've got anything.
Can I come back in as well, Chair? And thank you, Councillor, for that question. It's one question that is actually asked on a frequent basis. So just to add to what Lynette has said, I think probably for your understanding as well, and importantly, is that Welsh Government work together with our officers. So we have a seat around the table to design the training. And more importantly then, is that all the training, which is verified and developed at a very high level and a national level, is then available free to every single school and every practitioner, which is quite unique and quite special. If you took away that middle tier, then that free training and support would be removed. So that's why I know it seems like a lot of money, but it gives every school free training, free access to leadership pathways and development that otherwise would not be there. And it actually allows, going back to Councillor David's question to us previously, it allows our officer, not to only officers, to offer the national training programme, but that bespoke programme for our individual schools to go in, work with our clusters, work with individual schools and individual practitioners, and all free of charge. And, so that, I think that's the element perhaps that sometimes people don't realise there are no charges and that we can support and share good practice.
Yeah, it certainly was an interesting question, Councillor Peter, because
yes,
it is, because you could argue that the support should come directly from Welsh Government. Well, they wouldn't have the local knowledge to do the work, and if it came directly to the authority, would they have the resource to do it? So it's getting that balance right, isn't it? Are you happy with that, Peter? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you both for the answers.
Margaret,
yes,
you're patiently waiting.
Yes, sorry. Well, I think, Anwen, you've answer the first question. I've got three sort of linked things, so I'll just go with it quickly. So good that there's a strong rural voice at national level. What have been the important areas that the partnership has influenced? Well, you've just mentioned one that is going to be much wider than our area here, but that was the first one. Very successful start to the professional development programme. So pleasing to see. How is the impact on individuals, schools, and quality and standard of education for the children being monitored in the longer term when the course has been completed? A third one is a bit like that. It's good to see the 5 priorities in the annual business plan and look forward to the impact they have in the next financial year. But how will this be measured? What baselines are being used to measure progress from at this stage and presumably annually, thinking in terms of scrutiny, looking at and thinking, yes, you can see it. You've got to have something there that the words are lovely, but you've got to have something else. And I wasn't clear as to what that might be, and you're probably working on it. But those were 3 quick questions.
Those are great questions, Margaret, and I think the benchmarking one is of particular interest to us. So, Anwen, fire away.
Thank you, Margaret, for those questions. So if I just go to your first, which is around how have we influenced. So before I do the one around the early careers, we've heavily been a part of the Curriculum for Wales programme for national support and bespoke support, and are very much sitting around the table designing the curriculum, especially the progression steps now. So we've very much been involved with that and leading. And actually 2 weeks ago we had national networks together, and actually schools from both Powys and Ceredigion shared on a national front their effective practice. So that's really promising. But of course, for us in Mid Wales Education Partnership, because we are quite different to many other authorities, our pilot, which Welsh Government have endorsed and are supporting us with, is really, really exciting to nurture our early career teachers. We know, well, I'm and Lynette and yourselves, once we're in Powys, you don't go anywhere. And the same for Ceredigion as well. And we need to nurture and develop and grow our own. So that programme is, so to answer that question, probably that one is a classic example. Now, you must have been eavesdropping in my conversations with Welsh Government over the last month around that, how do we measure impact and the quality of our work? Now, that's why I actually put a few Estyn quotes in there, because ultimately they are the proof in the pudding, if you want that, you know, at the end. But of course, not all of our schools are inspected. I know there's a more regular basis of that at the moment. So what we have at the moment, members, is that we are working actually on a Welsh Government platform at the moment on a paper to address that element and the, if you want, the elephant in the room of how do we measure impact. And what we've understood is that, and what we're working on, is that definition of what do we mean by impact and who is responsible and owns the different level of impact. So you've got us as a local, as a partnership and regions. So we need to own our work, and you asked about the work of our professional pathways. So we're looking now and not only evaluating the impact immediately once they finish their training, but also now we're working on a model where we're going back in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, and said, ask the question, what have you done with that? Where are you? How have you supported? And that needs to be then triangulated with the School Improvement Advisors report as well, looking at the impact on a school level. But on Welsh Government, as I'm going back, we're working on that impact and the ownership at different levels, because we can give the training, but then ultimately the head teacher and the practitioners need to own that next step about the impact it has on the ground. And I was going to say this, I haven't quite finished my presentation, but if you as local member and local authority governors can do anything to support us, that would be to encourage your leaders to make sure that they do give the time and the space for practitioners to attend professional learning, but also to do to work on it and give them autonomy then to develop and lead in their own schools, and using your professional learning grants as effectively as you possibly can. So Margaret, does that answer your questions?
That's
Because
fine.
your question is actually one we're asking on a national level at the moment, and there will be a paper out and linked with the school improvement framework ready for September, so that it's clear and who owns what, where, how, and what it looks like.
Just to develop Margaret's benchmarking question a little bit further, I suppose that the true benchmark will be where the schools come back to us and say, this is working. So are you confident that the schools actually know that the whole inner workings of the partnership at this stage?
Councillor Gwynfor, or Chair, do you mind if I answer that in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, tell you why. I'm not avoiding it, but I've actually got it towards the end of my presentation.
Yeah, no,
which
that's
is
absolutely fine.
Is that okay, Chair? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. Councillor Allen, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's more to come, Mr. Hanwen.
Only a little bit, only the next.
Yeah, no, I was just yeah, the main impact we want to look for really is on the education of the learners, really, isn't it? And it does take time for that to work through the system. But quick question on the qualifications for heads. There used to be a real bottleneck in the system trying to get heads on courses and allowing them to get that qualification. Has that been removed now? It sounds as if there's more availability.
Absolutely. And what we've done, hopefully, because it's a national programme now, we try and identify leaders early. So if they're a teacher, we want them to first go on the middle leadership programme. Then there's a programme then for ones heading up to assistant and senior and deputies, known as a senior leadership programme. And then there's an aspiring head teacher, and you must complete the aspiring head teacher before you can go on to the NPQH. And when you attend and pass the NPQH, one of the elements of it is that they expect you to be head ready, if you want. So if you've passed the NPQH, what they're saying is you are ready to take headship in any school that we could place you anywhere in Wales, and you'd be ready to take the headship. And they do really encourage people with NPQH, that they do encourage them to take up the role of headship and not just sit on it, if you want, as a deputy for many years, that they are encouraged to take headship. Of course, we can't influence that, but the bottleneck should have gone, and they should have been identified step by step: middle, senior, aspiring, and then NPQH.
And all those, I think it's 14 you said, wasn't it? They've all gone through those various steps.
Yeah, all those steps, yeah.
Okay, just one question. On ERU, it used to be a much bigger sort of consortium, didn't it, really? And there was much more, I don't know, buying power. And we were always told before Eston's demise, we used to have much more out of Eston, ERU, than we put in because of its size. Is that still the case when there's just two partners?
Obviously, we don't have that breadth quite, because we used to incorporate Pembroke, etc., and Swansea, etc. But it does, by working with Ceredigion together, we are able to identify their expertise and our expertise and share. But we're also working with other regions as well. That's quite close. So, you know, we're able to have, for example, support from partneriaeth for some of those leadership pathways that we're supported across regions as well, if you want, Councillor Aled.
Okay.
So perhaps not quite the same pool of officers as we would have officially and historically, but we're quite confident with the officers we have now across Powys and Ceredigion working together. I think Lynette wants to come back in, Chair.
Yes, she does.
Is that okay? Yeah, I think the economies of scale was beneficial to us, Councillor Aled, when we were part of ERU, because As a local authority here in Powys, we were able to access perhaps larger teams, but we were very keen when we were setting up the Mid Wales Education Partnership that we don't become too insular, that we maintain our relationships with the other consortia, for example, that we work across consortia. And as Anwen said, the new consortia that's down in the south there that we were a part of, Partner Area 8, we do still work across with them, particularly around the MPQH, for example. So making sure that we still look outside of the Mid Wales Partnership as well is key for us, I think, as we move forward. So I think it is a very valid point. It's something that we've been aware of, and making sure that we do work in close collaboration with other consortia so that we can do those joint regional work, and so that we've still got that economies of scale as we go forward.
Okay.
I can see you waiting, Danny. Councillor Peters indicating. Just for our confidence in this, one quick question: do you think the resource that we have is that? Are you confident that that is enough to complete your work? And the second question, I don't want you to go into depth on, when obviously the plan that other areas have got, do you feel that we're operating on the same model, or do you think you've got a certain uniqueness to it?
Okay, if I come back in, so we'd always want more money, wouldn't we?
Okay. Yeah, okay, then are you confident that you can deliver it with that resource?
Yeah, but we have, yes. So we've identified, and one area that we've used our just over £1 million in Powys, which has proven really effectively, is employing and supporting our schools with the practitioners. I don't know if you're aware that across the different primaries and secondaries across Powys, we support our schools and fund them for strong individuals in their schools to come and work with the local authority a day a week, and to work with other schools and in the networks. So that's proven really, really beneficial. And we've been meeting with them recently, evaluating their work. And what they've done is being able to not only improve the work and support their own schools, but actually support on a cluster level. So they attend cluster meetings and share their effective practice, attend other elements. So what we've done, Chair, is try and work quite smart, if you want, and quite clever with our money, so that it supports the schools and also adds capacities in with the officers as well. Do we run the same model, Chair? Not quite, because with CAS, GWE and EAS, they actually, if you want, own and run the school improvement model as well. So there's school improvement advisors, or the old challenge advisors, if you want, they're actually employed by the region. But for us and Partnereth, in fact, they're completely independent. So they're both local authorities are completely in control of their SIAs, their school improvement advisors, but we then just add that additional layer of support and bespoke working in collaboration on the 5 areas that we've mentioned.
Okay, I'm going to bring thank you, Anwen. I'm going to bring Councillor Pete in, and I'll give Aled a chance to come back in as well. So, Councillor Pete, please. Pete, you mic'd.
Thanks, Chair. The thing that I was going to draw out, which has been touched on a couple of times, is that when Eru disbanded, we were left without a representative at the national table. If you look at the memorandum of understanding, you'll see that we have designated officers from within the partnership and within the authorities that now have a seat at each and every one of those national groupings. So the formation of the partnership has actually brought us back into the position where we have those national seats. But because we are closer to the organisation, because they're only talking to 2 of us, we're actually, as an organisation, closer to those national decisions, because pretty much every meeting that's there is someone from one or other of the authority areas that are directly involved in the discussions. So this is actually, compared to Eru, puts us in a position where we have a much stronger influence both on the direction of national initiatives and also earlier and more informed insight into the direction those national initiatives are taking. So it is actually quite a significant bonus, not just for ourselves, but for our colleagues in Ceredigion as well.
Thank you, Councillor Pete. Aled, do you want to come back in after all that explanation? I'm getting no response there. So Councillor Danny, jump in, please.
Thank you. I just, yeah, before the presentation, I had quite a few questions, but as the chair said earlier, it's a very good presentation and answered pretty much, well, all of my questions. Apart from, I would just like a quick explanation on the table on 2.12. It may be my lack of experience, but I could do with an explanation on the figures on that. What do they mean? What are they for, please?
No, Councillor Danny, very happy with that one. So that's a very quick one. So as I mentioned, we across the both local authorities, Powys and Ceredigion, to support the deprivation agenda, we purchased RADI, the support for disadvantaged children and for schools. Now, the reason there's a table is there's 5 different tiers or levels of support. So it goes from the very highest level of support, which is in school RADI, where their offices physically work with the schools on working on improving and looking at their strategies. So if I give you an example of what our schools have done, so sorry, Councillor Dan, I'm not sure where you're a local member, but Ysgol Maes y Dderwen, Ysgol Calon Cymru, etc., have been part of this, where what we've done is, you know, when a pupil comes into school and we set targets for those pupils, what we've realised is actually historically, probably a disadvantaged learner, their targets actually may be lower because their reading age or their numeracy skills, etc., may be lower because they haven't got that luxury of somebody reading to them at home, the support network at home. So historically, unfortunately, those pupils would have been given a lower target, when in fact, probably those pupils could achieve as good as anybody else. So what RADI, one of the main concepts of RADI is to uplift those pupils that we identify as probably having levels of deprivation, and you uplift their targets. So what that does, it gives them that higher level of challenge and, more importantly, the expectation. So regardless of where your home background is or your community background, you're challenged and supported to achieve to your very, very best ability. So where historically perhaps you may have been capped at too low a level, but now it's completely changed the concept, and it doesn't matter where your background is, you are challenged and supported to achieve your very, very best ability. So that's where RADI comes in, and then the table shows the different level of support. So the in-school RADI is that really, really high level, really quite intensive support to keeping in touch, where they meet perhaps once a term in school, and then over Teams meetings, down to remote coaching, which is purely only over Teams, then supported RADI, which is all the resources that they've been engaging with. And we've got officers in Powys and Ceredigion that actually, independent to the actual company of RADI, go in and support the school. So Andy Farrell, who's now part of the secondary team, now goes in and supports on this as well. And then the recorded RADI, because there's lots and lots of pre-recorded sessions and training available. So that's what the table is, all the different levels of support and how many different schools. So half of Powys schools engaged to some level last year. Our aim now is to get all schools to engage, and just for you to know, it is coming next. One of our aims is that we actually have a further conference purely on this RADI approach for Powys and Ceredigion schools in the summer, so that they're fully engaged and fully aware of the work. And it is proven actually to have a really positive impact on our deprived learners. Does that make sense to you, Councillor Danny?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. Thank you.
Okay, then. We did have some confusion over the table, and Danny highlighted this in the pre-meeting, really. So as a means of benchmarking, we will be looking at that table in our next scrutiny, and we'll be wanting to see that a lot more populated. Is that right?
Correct, and that's part of our priorities for next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Or next financial year. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Danny. I've got Councillor Gareth and then Margaret.
Thank you, Gwynfa. 3 questions. I might apologise if the first one's already been addressed, but I must have missed it. This funding, Anwen, how long is it in place for? Has it been suggested how long we may have it? Is it a number of years? You mentioned a couple of times as well about teachers rarely leaving Powys or Ceredigion because it's such a beautiful county, which we all agree with. Does this include teachers leaving the profession? Because something that I see more often than them switching to another county is that they actually leave teaching altogether and that we lose them. So I'd be intrigued to know about that. And then Anne and Lynette will know everything that I'm currently going through with Ceredigion, and to hear this support for the middle, senior and head teachers on pathways is fantastic. How will this look tomorrow when it's up and running? And crucially, you kept saying it was going to be free of charge to all schools. Who's going to decide who gets it? How's it going to be prioritised? Is it going to be a blanket courses for all newly qualified NPQHs or new teachers, or is this going to be something that's going to be identified through the governing body or the SLT, or how do we target that? And then kind of linked to that is, are we confident that there is enough to go around equally amongst all our schools throughout Powys? So sorry, a lot of questions there, but yeah, deal.
No, Councillor Gareth, very fair questions, so I'll take you through. So funding the level term. So as with everything in life, I can't guarantee you anything, but Welsh Government are committed to the regions. It is their way of working. So as far as we understand, there may be tweaks to the funding. For example, I know next year they're hoping to put the PGG, where as it's now partly linked to the regions, it will be going straight to local authorities. So that's changing next year. But there is a commitment by Welsh Government to this middle tier, because they realise that we do undertake really important work that, as we mentioned before, you can't go from direct Welsh Government at a whole Wales level direct to individual school level. So we are required on as that middle tier, if you want. Now, I'm just on it. Oh yeah, the teachers leaving the profession. Councillor Gareth, I cannot say that's probably the element that made us propose to Welsh Government about the early career teacher programme. It is a worry that we all have as officers and professionals that, yes, once you come to Powys and Ceredigion, you don't want to go anywhere. But this programme, you're completely right. When we approached Welsh Government to see whether they would support us and whether it would be something that they would be interested to find out, it was because of the number of teachers actually after year 2, 3, 4, 5, because of the pressures, because of perhaps being in a rural area, being quite insular, that we want to support those so they don't leave the profession. And that's the whole intention, and the paper that we submitted to Welsh Government was around that, not only nurturing them and developing them, but to keep them in the profession as well, because it is a tough world out there. And you know, we need to look after them and make sure that their well-being is supported as best as we possibly can. And then for individual schools, so as local authority governors, you'll all be aware, it's up to the leader of the school, a head teacher, to identify middle leaders and to give their staff the time and the space to engage with this programme. So I would say that working with the head teacher, working with the SIA, the head teacher needs to say, do you know what, I've got a really, really good potential young member staff that would benefit from attending that middle leader course. They need to be identified with the SIA alongside them. Same then for senior leaders, as you can see people who are pushing there at that extended leadership team. Are they being identified as senior leaders? And then those assistant heads and deputies encouraged, once they're ready, to go for the aspiring head teacher course. That's really important. So it's the head teacher has a crucial, and the chairs of governors have a crucial role in identifying and giving people the time and the space and valuing the courses. But more importantly, I remember the days I would go away on a training course. I'd come back buzzing, as we still do, but then the second you come back and you're in front of those classrooms, you're back into the day-to-day. You actually, the leaders need to give the individuals the time and the space as well. And that's what the professional learning grant is there for, to give them the time. So if I was leading on something on reading strategy or something, that I'm given time to think, right, how does this look in my school? What do I need to do? Which other members and colleagues do I need to speak to incorporate that? So is the capacity there? Absolutely. There is no limit. What we depend on is the SIAs and the head teachers to identify the right people for us and to give them the encouragement and support to follow the pathways.
Okay, Lynette's looking to come back in before you, Margaret, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to, I know Anwen's got it on a few more slides that she's got after these questions are finished, but I just wanted to bring in the point here that Councillor Garth, you mentioned about free training and how it's prioritised. And just to say, one of the things that certainly has come out of COVID and the new ways of working is the plethora of professional learning that we've got now coming on our Mid Wales Educational Partnership website, which Anwen will show you at the end of her presentation, which is free to all. We've got pre-recorded training, we've got so much professional learning there that is free to all teachers, teaching assistants, etc. in the Mid Wales Education Partnership, and it is there can be delivered in their own time because it's online. So it is going to be actually, and some schools have already said there's so much of it. It's the choosing of it, but there is an absolute plethora of information and training out there for our schools from the Mid Wales Partnership at the moment, which I know Anwen will come on to at the end of her presentation, but I just wanted to say it there. So it's not just those leadership pathways, it's training for the curriculum for Wales, training for progression and assessment, all of this is there for every member of staff in the Mid Wales Partnership to access at any time.
Gareth, you wishing to come back? No, he shakes his head. Margaret, over to you.
Yeah, quick question, and it's my ignorance, I think, but anyway, RAD is already showing benefits in its early stages, but I should know this. How do you access it? As the schools bring that about, but what age group are we talking about, or what age groups? That's something I'm not clear about, and I'm sure I should know.
No, not at all. Thank you for that, Margaret. It's for all age groups, so primaries and secondaries and special schools as well. But actually, we're actually trialling across the Mid Wales Education Partnership now, is actually identifying, and you'll understand this completely, that actually it's been proven that if you want to really impact a child, it's early in their education. Well, So we're actually trialling it in early years, and we're across Mid Wales Partnership. It's the first time that RADI are working with early years, because as we all know, that's where you have the biggest impact.
And we actually need then to be looking at how it's impacted and looking at the practice that has gone on to see, shouldn't we, that if we need to look at our approach to early years or whichever age group from it, because it's it should show us something, shouldn't it?
Absolutely. So they're just starting that now.
Because it sounds to be exciting.
It is, but that's a part of this now, this next round of going down to early years. So we will be looking at the impact. And with RADI approach, I will be honest, going back to your question about impact, if we've identified the target when they're in year 7 or in foundation learning, we actually won't fully see the impact until they're school leavers.
No, but we can, and we'll never know really, because hopefully there won't be, but having said that, early intervention is wonderful. Thank you.
Diolch, Galan.
Thank you, Margaret. Do you want to finish your presentation now? Well, before we get any more questions coming in, because we've been over an hour now, so we need to.
And I promise I won't be long. So
no, that's not a problem. It's good information.
Diolch, Galan. So planning for now the next financial year for the 23-24. Exciting time for me, of course, because I'm new in post, and this is the first time I'll be able to lead from the beginning. So obviously, we have to follow the national priorities, which I'll quickly take you through. I've already met with the lead officers of both Powys and Ceredigion to make sure that the priorities align with both local authority school services and also aligning with individual schools. So just some of your questions alluded to this. I've actually collated all school improvement and development plans from both Powys and Ceredigion and categorised all their priorities and shared them with officers so that we can give that bespoke support where it's required according to the individual needs of each of our individual schools. So very, very quickly, so that you're aware, last week, Welsh Government released the national mission. So apologies, it wasn't in your report because I'd written a report before it was released. But Welsh Government released their new national mission. I'll quickly take you through it. So it's no shock, the main priorities, which is the learning for life, making them lifelong learners, breaking down the barriers. So our deprivation agenda is really, really important here so that every learner succeeds. Councillor Gareth's question on making it a positive education experience for all learners, but also all practitioners, because Welsh Government and we're aware of how difficult of it is out there at the moment. So we need to look after our staff. Making sure that there is high quality teaching and leadership training and support is available for all our staff. Looking after our schools and develop them as community-based learning. So we're heavily involved in that element of that community approach. And the one that was released actually with the white paper this Monday was the Cymraeg that belongs to us all. And I don't know if you're all aware, but on Monday, Welsh Government released a white paper on Welsh education, which with a consultation that's currently open up until June, which places a priority of all schools to work towards the national mission of 1 million speakers by 2050. And what's interesting, and I will put this because at the beginning of the meeting, you verified the minutes, the last meeting where I was with you last, with the attendance and the catchment maps. And what's interesting in the white paper, it says that every local authority must encourage Welsh medium education and make it aware and all parents aware. Now, hopefully with the development of Powys's online application system for admissions, we'll absolutely be able to promote the Welsh language schools for all our learners. So that was released last week along with a white paper. And then what we have is in the RCG, the Regional Consortia grant that funds this work, there are 8 enabling factors, again, all aligned with the curriculum, well-being, encouragement of all learners. And then if you are an LA governor, you'll be aware of the different element that comes into this, such as a school improvement guidance. The one, if you're an LA governor, that you're aware that the school development plan is a governing body document that needs to be published with the support, etc. So all my work now and planning for 2023-24 has to and does align with all the national priorities, local priorities and individual school level priorities. So for when I come back to you next, and Chair, you said that you will be absolutely challenging me on the RADI table and looking for improvements and impact there. The priorities we've put forward and have agreed are firstly, without a doubt, support all our practitioners in developing effective approaches to learning and teaching. It's proven that the most impact for any learner, regardless of background, comes with effective teaching and learning, that provision on the ground. So we need to support all our schools and all our practitioners as best as we possibly can to be the very best teachers. We also want to support all our schools because the curriculum for Wales will be mandatory and be delivered in all our schools from September. We want to support them even further with the delivery of the curriculum for Wales. And now the next steps of curriculum planning, but also planning for progression and making sure that we effectively develop the literacy, numeracy and digital competency skills at age appropriate levels. We want to support the well-being and the whole school approach to well-being. Well-being needs to be owned by everybody. From the very second they come off that school bus or walk into school, from the very second that they leave, every member of staff within the school are responsible and must embody that well-being and whole school approach and understand the bigger picture. So we'll be working on that element along with the element of RADI work to support our all our learners to thrive. The fourth priority is around the leadership pathways. So to support, as many of you have asked us today, support our practitioners to go along the next steps in their careers, to have the support they require, and to identify the future leaders for Powys and Ceredigion. And then the fifth one I call my priority, which is to ensure, and Chair, this is where I'll come and answer your question now, to ensure strong communications and strong governance arrangements. I really want the challenge. I really value the challenge and questions that you've given me today. It's really, really beneficial, and one that hope that as Scrutiny and Mid Wales Education Partnership, that we can continue for the best of all our learners across Wales, Powys and Ceredigion, sorry. So what am I doing now? I'm working on the business plan to be submitted to Welsh Government and to both cabinets very, very soon. And Councillor Gwynfor, Chair, you said, how many actual practitioners are aware of the work of Mid Wales Education Partnership, because we're new? Absolutely brilliant question, and one that I identified immediately right from the outset in my interview. Who are Mid Wales Education Partnership and what do they do? So one of my first challenges since being in post in January is establish a Mid Wales Education Partnership website and then a regular newsletter. So I'm really pleased to say that I've already shared this with Powys head teachers, and we'll be going to share with Ceredigion head teachers in next month after Easter. As of the 1st of May, you'll all be aware that at the moment in Powys that we have that purple Powys button. Now, as of the 1st of May, on the Hub platform, every practitioner in Powys and Ceredigion will now be accessing this platform, which will be the Mid Wales Education platform. Now, firstly, they'll all still have access to all the wealth of resources that are available in the Powys button, as you've always known, the one that would have been purple historically. So all the resources will still be there. But what's exciting now, because we're working in partnership with Ceredigion, all Powys schools and vice versa for Ceredigion will equally then have access now, once we're live, to all the resources of Ceredigion as well. So we'll broaden that offer available. But then what we have then, because of the Mid Wales Education Partnership, we'll have the professional learning offer that's open to every practitioner in every one of our schools, and the regular newsletters. And then, I can't remember who asked it of me, each and every one of them will then be able, practitioner will be able to access the resources and the information available behind each of the areas that we work on. And I think, to be honest with you, we quite often struggle to get information out to the classroom floor, to the people that actually need to know, not just the head teachers. We have really strong access to head teachers, but head teachers are busy people. And with all goodwill in the world, we sometimes forget to share things. You know, it's just the life that we lead. So once this is live as of 1st of May, all practitioners, when they land on this, will have all the information they need about their career pathways, what's open to them, but also they'll have links to all the different networks available and support. So for example, as we speak at the moment, is the maths and numeracy network that's going on. Well, all our practitioners will be aware of this and will know what's happening, so that they can access at the right time and the right place. So hopefully, Councillor Gwynfor and Chair, that answers partly your question, but your other question as well was about, how do I know as Mid Wales Education Strategic Lead that I'm actually doing the right thing, that my ear is to the ground, that I do know what it's like to be in the school. So I will be establishing now a head teacher reference group as well, so they can help inform me, is the support we're providing right? Do they want something different? Do they want more of something, less of something? So the head teacher reference group will be established as well in line with launching the website. Also in my role, working with Lynette and Maynard, both Chief Education Officers, what we have is an overview of all Powys and Ceredigion schools, their strengths and areas for development. And then, as I said, what we do is we take the development plans, the ones published by every governing body, we take the development plan of every single school, we map them and make sure that the provision that we're providing is in line with the needs of every individual school. So I've already done that based on 22-23 priorities, and I'll be doing exactly the same before October half term, ready so that we can give bespoke support according to the need of each of individual school. A dyna ni, and I'll stop sharing and pause for breath, and thank you, Chair.
We thank you, Anwen. It's been a good session. Members, let's complete it with some more questioning. I'm just going to develop Anwen's point in relation to the coalface, if you like. You did mention it at one point that chairs and head teachers have a crucial impact on us. We need to develop this further into governing bodies as well, because this has made it so much clearer for me. I'm going to say a transformation from area to the partnership. Well, I'm going to suggest at this point that governing bodies won't understand that. So somehow you're going to have to reach out to governing bodies if that's through head teachers, or how else we do it.
Well, I've actually asked for a slot on the governor for Powys and Ceredigion and governor briefing session. So I have asked for, I think it's June is the next governing briefing, but also the chairs, I think that's in April. I have actually asked for a slot. So thank you for that, Chair, and I agree with you completely.
Good. I'm going to bring Councillor Bryn in now. Apologies to Councillor Bryn, you weren't here at the start of the meeting, and I did text you about the translation services. We're having real difficulty getting translation services on a Wednesday, but if you do wish to speak in Welsh, obviously Anwen's a Welsh speaker, so I'm quite happy for you to do that, Bryn. Thank you.
Iawn, diolch Gwynfor. Okay, wel, na'n gofyn y cwestiwn gan fod Anwen yn deall Cymraeg yn iawn. Be di'r goblygiadau cyhoeddiad?
Papur gwyn?
Ie. Yn Caerdydd, mae Gymraeg ar gael I bawb I fod. So, ydy hwnna'n mynd I roi mwy o hawl I unigolion fel disgyblion yn yr ysgolion I cael yr hawl I cael eu haddysg nhw drwy Gymraeg yn Powys? The question I'm asking is the white paper submitted by Cardiff the other night going to give the pupils within Powys or any other part of Wales the rights to have Welsh medium education.
I'm sure perhaps Lynette will come to me. Diolch o galon, Councillor Bryn. Mi wna I hwn yn dwyieithog os dyn iawn. Papur hollol cyfroes y gafodd ei gyhoeddi di llun. Really cyffroes. So mae yna cwpl o elfennau fyna. Dwi'n yn gwybod os ydych chi wedi darllen y ymgynghoriad, ond yn gyntaf o ran y cysga, un o'r pethau cyntaf maen nhw wedi crybwyll ydy bydd y Llywodraeth yn berchen y papur ar elfen strategol, a wedyn bydd yna ofyniad a bob awdurdod lleol wedyn I ddod ymlaen gyda'r gweithrediad o cysga yn hytrach na'r elfen strategol. So Llywodraeth fydd yn gosod y llwybr strategol, a wedyn y Llywodraeth awdurdod lleol o ran sut maen nhw'n mynd I gyflwyno fo. So firstly, before I share, one of the exciting elements of the white paper is that in the consultation, they've said that we're now with the WESP, we now have a 10-year WESP, and each local authority historically have had to put their own strategic paper forward and then an implementation plan. Under the new consultation, Welsh Government will own the strategic overview, and then the local authorities will just own the implementation. And it takes me then to Councillor Bryn's second question then, where in the new white paper, it will be an expectation that all our learners, regardless of which school they're in, will be actually leaving bilingual. Mae nhw'n disgwyl bod ni'n gadael yn ddwyieithog, yn union fel dwi'n neud wan, yn gallu mynd o un iaith i'r llall, dyna be di dwyieithrwydd. So mae hwnna'n wir, a mae yna, cynghorydd Bryn, dwi'n meddwl sy'n chi glywed fi'n deud, mae yna ofyniad ar y awdurdod lleol i hybu yr ysgolion Gymraeg. A chi'n gwybod y gwaith nes i wneud drwytho ni efo chi o ran y platform i ymgeisio am lle ysgol ar-lein, bydd hwnna yn fwy pwysig nag erioed o blaen i sicrhau bod yr ysgol Gymraeg agosa yn cael lle reit o flaen o dan trwy'n y rhieni, fel bod nhw'n gwybod reit dyma yr ysgol Gymraeg agosa ata i a dyma beth sydd ar gael i mi. So what I was saying before under the Welsh white paper is that importance that every local authority really fully encourages and supports all learners and to understand the options they have for fully bilingual education. So Councillor Brinswell, I don't know if you're aware, there won't be a second language Welsh in the future. There will only be one exam. It'll be in Gymraeg, because they are expecting long term down the line is that our learners, okay, at different levels will be completely bilingual. So there's lots and lots of exciting changes at foot at the moment, following the consultation that is currently open and will be open until 16th of June, I think.
Okay, so mae'r ymgynghoriad dal ar gored ar y funud ydi o, felly ar y papur. Okay. Achos yr argraff dwi'n cael ydi fydd yr awdurdod lleol dal yn ffiltro hynny be mae'r unigolion ar llawr gwlad ac yn mynd i dderbyn neu'r ysgolion lleol. Fi gyn fy mhlentyn i er enghraifft dim hawl i cael addysg Gymraeg yn y pwynciau mae'n dewis a gofyn amdanyn nhw.
Nid bod fi'n osgoi'n ateb dy gwestiwn di'r gwbl, cynghorydd, ond nid fydd hwnna ddim yn rhan o gwaith y partneriaeth. Hwnna di gwaith yr awdurdodau lleol o ran y cynnig a'r gyllidebau, ond un peth sy'n rili bwysig ydy trwy y partneriaeth y cydweithio gyda Ceredigion, un o'r pethau dyn ni wedi galluogi ydy y darpariaeth ar gyfer pob un yn cwrsio ni wan ar gael yn ddiweithog. Mae hwnna'n rhan allweddol o gwaith ni'n gwneud. So as part of the Mid Wales Education Partnership, all our professional learning now is bilingual, available bilingual. So our professionals can choose either Welsh medium or English. So that's real benefit of the Mid Wales Education Partnership. And also if we need Welsh medium bespoke support, that is now available for us as well. So I'm using officers from Ceredigion in Borhyddgen at the moment to give that Welsh medium level support.
I just cyn fi mynd, wnaethoch chi crybwyll bod mae dim ond un cymwyster Cymraeg fydd ar gael i bawb. Pryd mae hwnna'n mynd i gael ei weithredu? Achos mae'n mynd i cael galon am y stalwm.
Dibynnol ar be di canlyniad ymgynghoriad wrth gwrs yn dydio, ond fel ydych chi'n gwybod mae'r holl cymwysterau newid o 2026 ymlaen. So fydd o'n rhan o hwnna o'r newid mawr sy'n digwydd o ran y cwricwlwm i Gymru ac yn y blaen a'r dilyniant yna. So with the Welsh medium, only one qualification coming in the future. That will come in 2026 forward as we change all the qualifications in line with the curriculum for Wales. So that is actually en route, if you want, and being planned at the moment. And actually, there's a consultation open at the moment for that and all qualifications at the moment. And there is a big session available for all practitioners to be involved in that in a public forum on the 11th of May. So that will be all available for head and our practitioners to be fully aware of as of May. And once the website is live.
Grêt, diolch yn iawn. Ysach chi cystadlu ar rhannu'r ddolen ar gyfer yr ymgynghoriadau yma, sgwelwch yna,
Gwna, be di ffordd gore? What's the best way then? Councillor Bryn has asked for me. If you're okay, Councillor Bryn, I'll put it into the chat once I've finished talking.
Email would be better for me personally. I won't lose it as quickly.
What was that, Bryn? You wanted to cite to the white paper?
The white paper and the consultation.
The link to the consultation.
Councillor Peters put it in the chat.
One step ahead of me.
But again, if it could be circulated by email as Bryn requests, we'd be very grateful.
Yeah.
Just on that, and just to develop a little bit further, and Bryn might have picked up on that, in the white paper objectives, it says the promotion of the Welsh language, etc. But there was nothing in your objectives, Anwen, in relation to that, or is that something which the partnership won't pick up on or not?
It's because actually the Welsh element is actually, and the Welsh Bill and provision is actually a local authority responsibility, not the Mid Wales Partnership.
Yep, no,
but we do support it heavily by giving the provision of support bilingually, so officers available in English and Welsh across partnership. So it's a local authority priority, but as a Mid Wales Partnership, we fully support our schools in that bilingual provision.
Okay, thank you, Anwen. Have we teased out all the questions now? Is there any further information that anybody requires? I think it's been a comprehensive area of scrutiny, and I look forward. The one thing which you mentioned in your report was about joint scrutiny. I think that would be very, very useful. It would be, it's a long time since we've done something like that, but obviously it would be interesting to see scrutiny starts from the Ceredigion side as well. So I think that's something I would be interested in progressing.
Yeah. So obviously, I'll be delivering this to Ceredigion as well. So it all depends on how they see it. It's in the MOU, so we'll see how they take it. And if it's okay with portfolio holder as well, that it'll probably be raised in our CEO and termly meetings. And then perhaps if you as chair of scrutiny want to raise that we want to further scrutiny and joint, I very much support it. And Guy, just diolch o galon chi heddiw hefyd. Thank you very much to you as well. Ironically, I've actually enjoyed it. Something wrong there probably, but being able to share our work, and I really welcome all your questions. Wi'n croesawu eich holl cwestiynau, so diolch o galon i chi gyd.
Thank you, Anwen. Diolch yn fawr. Members, obviously, in some respects, this is a report that needs to be noted, but is there anything we need to tease out of this that it's not actually we're making recommendation, but we did express a couple of concerns. Should we be putting them on record so that we can compare these at a future scrutiny? I've made a few notes as we go along. One of the concerns, and Councillor David raised it in the beginning, is the difference between ERU and the partnership now, and how those challenge advisors there, and now with that is more in the direction of the local authority. Do we need to make sure that is noted so that we can see whether that is operative at a future time? The other one which I noted was benchmarking, the measuring, how we measure this. I'm not saying we want answers to this at all, in no way, but these are some of the things which we highlighted, which we thought were quite important. The share of the funding, the equity of the sharing of that funding. I haven't picked up on anything else really, or is there anything anybody else would like to add to that we can just submit them as a conclusion in our minutes and things? Anybody got anything else they'd wish to add to that?
Yeah, sorry, only now because I've stopped having my presentation open. There's a question there from Sarah Davis asking why the MOU is dated the 1st of April 23 when we've already been running for a year.
I think it was answered, Anwen, but yeah, go ahead.
Answered that, Anwen.
Oh, have you? Apologies. All right, no, sorry, apologies. But we have already been running, and the first MOU was just for the year, so we just felt now the next one would be better on a 3-year basis. Apologies, sorry, Lynette, I didn't go down the list long enough. Sorry,
yeah, no, thanks for the questions in the chat, and thank you to those officers that have responded. It does prove useful and helps us with our meeting progression. Thank you, Anwen. Thank you for your contribution. Really enjoyed it, and I would suggest that the partnership's in good hands, but we'll judge that when we scrutinise you next. Yes. Thank you very much.
Diolch o galon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Members, are in your hands. If anybody wants a comfort break, we've been running for an hour and 30. If anybody wants a comfort break, please speak up. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. Okay, we'll continue. We're on item 6 on your agenda, and it's the Regional Skills Partnership. We've got Aggie with us before. I used to scrutinise the Mid Wales. I'm not really sure what the title is, so I've seen Aggie's presentation in some respects. I'll be very interested to see how it's changed now. So, Lynette or Pete, is there anything you wish to say before we get into that regional skills, or should we just let Aggie progress with it? Okay.
I'm quite happy to let this progress because it would normally be David that would be introducing.
Okay, apologies.
Post 16.
Yeah, no, Aggie, welcome to our meeting. Thank you for your attendance. Members, you've got a report on your agenda, but Aggie, I'll let you take us through what you think you'd like to do with it, please.
Thank you, Councillor Gwynfor. Thank you for inviting me to present to the Scrutiny Committee. I know that we have new members here, so the presentation is going over some history as well. And in addition to that, I have submitted the RSP annual report so that you can see the background on the progress that we've made to date. And obviously I'd be really happy to take any questions after the presentation. If I may, Chair, before I go into the presentation, there are a few changes afoot with the Regional Skills Partnership. So I'd just like to hand over to Nicola Williams, who just wants to say a couple of things first before I go into the presentation, if I may.
Thank you, Aggie. Yeah, welcome, Nicola. Thank you, and certainly welcome your contribution today. So, yep, fire away, Nicola.
Thank you, Councillor Gwynfor, and again to echo Aggie's comments, thank you very much for inviting us here to present an update on the Regional Skills Partnership in Mid Wales. As Aggie said, unfortunately there are some changes afoot, and Aggie is moving on to a new role, but fortunately still staying within Powys County Council. So she's moving on to a role in the Economic Development team. So we'll be leaving her role as the Regional Skills Partnership Manager. So just to advise the other changes, that from the 1st of April, the Regional Skills Partnership will come under myself as a strategic lead for the Growing Mid Wales. And we were out to advert for Aggie's replacement. So just a bit of a plug really, if anybody, the advert is on LinkedIn, social media, Twitter. If you can share it, would be much appreciated, but we are currently out to recruitment for a new Regional Skills Partnership Manager. And the other thing I just wanted to say before I hand over to Aggie to take you through the presentation, I was really enlightened to hear what Anwen just had to say, her presentation, and I think how it really aligns with our programme of work in the Regional Skills Partnership. And I think going forward, it'll be crucial that we engage with Anwen and her team around the Mid Wales Education Partnership and see how the both work streams can align and work together going forward for the success of learning and skills really in Mid Wales. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Chair. Like to say thank you very much, and more than happy to come back here in the future to provide any updates, hopefully with a new manager. As you're aware, the RSP is subject to scrutiny under the Growing Mid Wales as well. We've got the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee, so we are scrutinised by that body, but more than happy to continue to come to this forum and provide updates if that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Over to you, Aggie.
Oh, not sure what's happened here. Is it this one? Is it sharing? I can't see.
Not at this moment, no.
No. Do you want me to try, Aggie?
Oh,
there we are.
No, I've done it. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
So I just, no, this still isn't showing properly. Just bear with me a second. Sorry, I'm not quite sure why. Right, okay. I will take you through the presentation. Right, that's better. That's better. Sorry, I don't know what was happening. I've had problems with this anyway. So yes, so thank you again for inviting us to provide a briefing on the work to date. We have been working really hard over the last 18 months or so since I came into post for new members. The RSP came into being in June of 2021, originally was part of the South West and Mid Wales RSP, but we became our own entity in June. So we continue to work with business leaders and stakeholders across the region, and that's in order to understand skills provision, labour market needs, so that we can drive investment that meets the requirements of both employers and workforce. We bridge the gap between education and regeneration, so that's how we work with Lynette and her teams, in the hope of creating a strong and vibrant economy, which is underpinned by innovation, growth and a capable workforce. We also align activity with the skills requirements of growing Mid Wales and cooperate strategically on behalf of stakeholders across Mid Wales, including the local authorities, and we continue to support Welsh Government key strategies and policy areas by providing a regional perspective. This includes baseline data for FE planning using employer-led intelligence, labour market intelligence and data. We do have Welsh Government policy leads who have been assigned to us. We work very closely with them and hold regular meetings with various departments under the skills and economy. So we sit across two areas, skills and economy within Welsh Government. So we have been really, over the course of the last year, been working on our 3-year employment and skills plans. All 4 RSPs were commissioned by Welsh Government to produce labour market intelligence. That was collaborating with employers and stakeholders to specifically develop the plan and action plan. As part of that, we opened the call for the Employment and Skills annual survey, which was sent out through not only the RSP board members, but also through our networks, through the forums, through Business Wales, the FSB, and also through colleagues in Powys and Ceredigion, but in Powys out to their networks as well, and their business contacts, so that we could ensure that we had good coverage across Powys and Ceredigion with that engagement with employers. Like CAST were commissioned to support the RSP in developing this by bringing together data from official data sets and their own proprietary data, looking at job postings to profile the main sectors of interest in the Mid Wales region. And by looking at the job postings, we are then able to forecast future requirements, where the gaps might be, and also where there are opportunities for skills development. So an initial high-level draft version of the new 3-year employment skills plan and action plan was sent to Welsh Government. That identified priorities for regional investment to support jobs and growth in Mid Wales region, and also we did that also at a more local level of Powys and Ceredigion. So we then were commissioned to produce a larger employer focused 3-year employment and skills plan. That's because Welsh Government, when they're sending our plans to ministers, they want a more succinct, focused plan rather than the ones that we've produced that are on the website, and the links are at the bottom of the presentation. That goes into far more detail than is required for the ministers. So we've collaborated with businesses, RSP board members, the RSP cluster groups, with stakeholders, with partners and colleagues across Ceredigion and Powys County Council, as well as, and members that have already been on the scrutiny panel will be aware that we have linked into education. We've linked into Lynette's team because we've set up a cluster group that is the heads of education across Powys and Ceredigion, where we work very closely on the work of the RSP and collaborate with both departments of education, so that we are complementing the work that is already happening and collaborating on activity going forward. So the final draft of the plan was presented to the Growing Mid Wales Board on the 17th of February, as per our governance under the Inter-Authority Agreement, and that was approved by them. So the 3-year Employment and Skills Plan was then launched at a spring employer engagement event that was held last Thursday. The event was opened by Councillor James Gibson-Watt and also Councillor Alan Williams from Ceredigion, supported as well by Councillor Wyn Thomas from Ceredigion and Councillor David Selby from Powys. The Employment and Skills Plan has a number of annexes as well, which are digital skills, energy and net zero, the National Occupational Standards, which is the recognised currency for education providers on the skills and the courses that are put on by the training providers. So that helps us to understand what businesses need, but it is that generalised accepted currency, so everybody knows what we're talking about there. Further education and apprenticeships, Welsh language, logistics and transportation, health and social care, advanced manufacturing, agriculture, food and drink production, and tourism and leisure, which also included some food and drink, but not the food and drink production side of that. So the event that we held was an opportunity for businesses to network and to explore opportunities around upskilling, training, apprenticeships and guidance around procurement and tendering. So the event, as I say, was opened by Councillor James Gibson-Watt and Councillor Alan Williams. It was hosted by, and some of you may be familiar with, Alan Jones, who was the former Chief Executive and Mentor of Business, did a great job in facilitating the day. They also then introduced Emma Thomas, who is the RSP board chair. Since the last time we met, we have appointed, or the leaders have appointed, a new chair. So Emma is the HR director for ABBA Instruments in Ceredigion. So we also produced, in preparation for this, a video, which was a snapshot of key messages from businesses talking about their key challenges and how they've addressed the skills gaps within their businesses, and also apprenticeships, talking about their key messages and experiences. And that was really to talk the language of businesses, to inspire businesses to think about, if they weren't already, taking on apprentices, upskilling their current workforce, and also to look at the opportunities around personalised learning accounts, which is free training for people already in employment, but to raise their earning threshold to £29,500, but also to encourage businesses to invest in training for their employers, which keeps people invested in the business that they're working in, but also adds to staff knowledge and experience, and also to retention, staff retention. So we then moved on to a presentation around energy, green skills and net zero. That was an explanation for businesses of net zero. If you speak to a lot of businesses, they don't understand what that means. They also, we've got 92% plus of our businesses, particularly in Powys, that's our small or micro businesses. And net zero is something that a lot of those businesses don't understand impacts on them. They don't understand how they can then work with their supply chain to also have an impact on net zero. So we wanted to help them understand how net zero affects their businesses, how they could be upskilling, and also to talk about procurement, the pre-procurement and tendering processes, We also then did an introduction on the 28th of February. Welsh Government launched their Net Zero Skills Wales report. So obviously the RSPs have been heavily involved in that with Welsh Government, but it was an opportunity to provide that video and to help businesses understand where Welsh Government are going, the direction of travel, the consultation that they're undertaking with regards to that. Following on from that, we had roundtable discussions, and it was to engage with businesses, again, to identify their needs now and for the future, understand the barriers to skills and recruitment, and provide a platform for businesses to network. There are a series of questions, plus there was the open discussion. We then moved on to the launch of the 3-year employment and skills plan, which Emma took forward. And we also we had a video address by Vaughan Gething, the Minister for Economy. He couldn't attend one of the RSP launches, so he decided that in fairness that he wouldn't attend any of them, but he did provide us with a video address, which also reiterated the importance of the RSPs going forward and the work that we're doing. So I really just wanted to provide an overview of where we are on that, but I'm really happy to take any questions and happy to go over the employment and skills plan, or to go over the launch event, or to take any questions as are deemed necessary. I don't know, Nicola, whether you wanted to add anything. Obviously you attended the event. I don't know if you wanted to add anything on to that, or whether you're happy for us just to go straight into questions.
No, happy, Aggie, thank you. We've covered it well, and it was a very, very good event, well organised, well recognised and attended. And look forward to working with the new chair of the RSP now going forward. So thanks, Aggie.
Thank you very much, both. Councillor Lucy's first with questions. Thanks for your presentation, Aggie. Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, thank you, Aggie. I've got a few questions, please. One, just to start with, is you mentioned that Lightcast. Is that a consultancy organisation that we employed? And I wondered how much it had cost us to employ them, and whether that wasn't something that we could be doing ourselves internally. That was my first question.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lucy. That's a good question. Happy to answer that. We have tried for quite a long period of time, probably for a year, to employ a data analyst and researcher, but we were unsuccessful. We did therefore, by agreement, we followed our governance and we went through to the Great Mid Wales Board for permission. I wouldn't call them consultants, they're technical advisors in that sense, because we didn't have the capacity within the team. And we did initially go to Powys and Ceredigion data units, but they were very busy with the well-being and other areas of work that they were doing. So they didn't have the capacity to support us within the detail that we required. So it was agreed that we would go outside to have that piece of work done. It's important also to say that we are commissioned by Welsh Government, and part of the role of the RSP is to provide that labour market intelligence data and research. So it was within the funds that we have within the RSP that we are given by Welsh Government to undertake that work.
No, thank you, Aggie. And another question that I have is about, we talk about working in partnership with schools to inform curriculum development, and I just wondered how that was working in practice. Or perhaps we haven't got that far yet, I don't know.
No, thank you, Councillor Lucy. No, both myself, Lynette, also Georgie, and the heads of education for Ceredigion. I've set up the working group, the cluster group, so that we are sharing information with the employment and skills plan, and particularly the action plan. They've been very much involved in that, and we do have regular meetings to ensure that we are complementing the work that we're doing, and also because obviously Lynette and her team have intelligence, they're working with schools, so they do have that intelligence to be able to help us with the work that we're doing. We don't have an operational remit with schools and with education, but we do have a responsibility from Welsh Government to ensure that Welsh Government skills policy is being filtered through and is being enabled and supported. And we do work with the 14 plus teams on other forums that we have as well. But I'll hand over to Lynette. She may want to add on to that as well.
Thanks, Peggy.
Yeah, I think we're really developing this work well, really, with this Regional Skills Partnership Board. As Aggie has already said, Georgie and I have been instrumental in working with Aggie in developing the plan and looking at that continuum for our learners right the way through, really. So we do have the new curriculum. We've got our post-16 offer as well. So really linking up with this. I mean, you know, as Nicola said at the beginning, we can further enhance that work going forward, but certainly we are working together effectively around some of this. But you know that there's further developments as the curriculum is being rolled out, particularly in our secondary schools. Further work to do, but certainly a really good start. Thank you, Councillor Lucy. Thank you, Aggie.
Thank you, Lynette.
Any further
Thank you,
questions, Lucy? You finished?
Can I
Go
ask
on.
one more quick one?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so under the health and social care bit, it says that only the job numbers for nursing auxiliaries and nursing assistants are projected to grow in the next 3 years. But I was just thinking, surely from the demographics of the county and the information that we've had from elsewhere, it would suggest that there'd be a greater demand for care workers and home carers in the county. That doesn't seem to be highlighted.
Councillor Lucy, again, that's a good question. We have questioned this with the data. We also work closely with Social Care Wales, and we have also checked with Welsh Government data leads as well. What we've discovered is that some of those roles are actually advertised through word of mouth, or they're advertised on Facebook, or they're advertised on LinkedIn. We have asked Welsh Government how that can be represented in the data going forward, because we can only use verified and ratified data sources as an evidence base for the work that we're doing. So we can only use that data that has been approved, but we are aware that that is an area that there is a bit of a hole there, really. So together working, we have a public services cluster group where Social Care Wales, the local authorities, fire service, ambulance service, all of those blue light services, we're all working together, and we've now got a working group looking at workforce planning. So the work of that is that we're producing a template that we can all agree is something, because everybody collects data in a different way, but there are key questions that we need to be asking. So we're developing that template. We've got another meeting in April, and then we will be sending that template, once approved, to all of those groups, so that we can build a better picture as well of, so it would be anecdotal evidence, but we could then use that anecdotal, we could have the text around that anecdotal evidence, because there will be further work. The employment and skills plan and the action plan are working documents, and as things change, then we will be changing the narrative in there, and we are commissioned to review that on a yearly basis, but we will be looking at that as we go forward, because it is a working document. So the data is telling us a different story to the anecdotal information that we are hearing, but we need to hear from those training providers that are providing training to the health and social care sector, but also the public services group that we also have, and the employer groups that we have, because we need to have an agreed way that we can capture that information that would be accepted by Welsh Government, but would also be accepted locally on the ground, because it's easy for people to say, oh, I know that they've got loads of vacancies, but what does that mean? Because they might have vacancies, but if they're not advertising them in a recognised way, it's difficult for us to capture that data.
Okay, thank you. And that was similar to agriculture, wasn't it? Where
Yes.
the same issues arise. Okay.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Councillor Lucy.
Thank you, Aggie.
Thank you, Lucy. Councillor Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and yeah, thank you, Aggie, for a very detailed presentation there. And apologies if I may have misunderstood it, but I think simplistically, as I was looking at it, we're saying there's a skills gap out there, or the employers are telling you there's a skills gap, and you're looking at ways to work with them in terms of how you can fill that skills gap. So I guess business is telling you what they want, which I guess is now and in the future, although 3 years does seem a bit of a short time scale to get that addressed. I guess I just wondered at the end, though, is having been told that and put the relevant training in place, and how do you then measure your success of what you've achieved at the end?
So our success is on the Schedule 2 that we report to. So we provide 3 times a year, we provide an update report to Welsh Government. If we weren't being successful, then they would tell us. But we also have our governance structure under the Grey Mid Wales Board, and we also report into the Partnership Board. But success for us is about bridging that gap. It's about identifying those priorities for regional investment. It's about feeding into the regional teams around the Growing Mid Wales growth deal portfolio. It's about working, also using our labour market intelligence and data to share that with partners, so that when they're looking at, for example, UK Share Prosperity Fund, and they're looking at applying for funding to deliver on their projects, the information and the evidence that we're providing should then be transferred into those applications as part of, the policies and the areas that they're working to. But it's also about that engagement with employers. It's, we had a really good discussion, roundtable discussion. They talked about recruitment, they talked about retention, they talked about not having the training providers, not having the courses that they're looking for. So we, or I, along with the other RSP managers, but we then meet with Chris Hare, who leads for Welsh Government on apprenticeships. We meet with Jeff Hicks, who's leading on the review of the personalised learning accounts offer. We lobby, we share the information that we have and the evidence that we have, in the hope that we can then change the delivery and the types of delivery, and we can influence those, the offer, the training offer. But really, it's also about everyone that we're engaging with, so yourselves as well, having those conversations. You all have businesses within your areas as well. So if they are telling you that we're not engaging with them, or if they're telling you that the work that we're doing isn't being reflected, then I personally really appreciate the feedback that we get, because that helps us. We don't sit back on our laurels. We learn, and we want to develop, and we want to do a better job, not because we're doing a bad job, but because in order to be supporting, we also need to change and adapt to the growing needs of our employers, of our residents, and also to be supporting people into employment, to be attracting inward investment, to be attracting businesses to come into the area. But to do that, we need to be able to offer sites and premises. We need to be able to offer support with net zero and green skills, and we also need to be able to offer not only a skilled workforce, but also to be able to offer a training curriculum that meets the needs of those businesses that we are trying to attract. but also to keep the businesses that are growing and expanding, to keep them within the region, but in particular here to keep them within Powys. So I hope that helps to answer your question, Councillor Peter.
Councillor Peter, anything further?
Yes, it does. Thanks, Aggie. I suppose it was just the bit I was just sort of struggling with slightly. For me, maybe I understand all what you've said there and all the things you've done. I guess I suppose it's just that measure at the end of the day. How do we know that work that you've done is got the people into that job or not? I suppose, but that may not be an easy question to answer, because I understand from your answer, as you're saying, you're filling all the gaps and addressing the gaps that are identified to you. But it was that bit at the end. How do we know they've worked and you've filled those gaps correctly? I suppose.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you for the question and for that follow up. The RSP is a high level strategic board. We are there to facilitate, so we're not an operational delivery board in that sense. So our measures are in the Schedule 2, and they are very much those high level strategic outputs, as opposed to delivering on KPIs, if you like. However, the Employment and Skills Plan has a number of activities there. So the measure there really would be, you know, if we came back in a year's time to say, so you had 20 pages of activities, what of those have you delivered on, or what of those have you influenced, and where are we now with regards to progress? So that really would be the outputs that we would look at, but we don't have specific measures. So we support Welsh Government with you know, 250 Welsh speakers by 2050, 125,000 apprenticeships by the end of the current Syneth. So we support and facilitate to help Welsh Government with those outputs, but we don't have a specific number that we're told that we need to do that. The other place that we would have measures, but not specific to the RSP, would be where we are helping with the Growth Deal programme, where we're helping with the data and the intelligence, because the Growth Deal funding comes with outputs. So any projects that come in, we would then be supporting the team to understand. So if they're looking at a project, we would then question, well, how many apprenticeships are those projects given? There is actually a formula that calculates the value of an apprentice against the value of funding and match funding that is awarded. So we do influence in that sense. So you know, we would be helping with that, but we're not actually tied into specific numbers.
Okay,
thank you, Aggie. The one thing I'm unclear, well, not unclear, but I'd be interested to have a flavour. Obviously, this has a higher level of scrutiny. Can you quickly tell us how that scrutiny is made up now? And is there, could you give us a quick flavour of what that scrutiny has identified recently?
So the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee, we haven't presented to them for a while. They have a programme of, as you do here, they have a programme of items that would be coming forward. I'm not sure of their forward work programme, but I am anticipating that we will be presenting to them as we go forward. The last meeting was looking at how we'd set up, because we only came into being 18 months ago. So it was looking at how we were set up and our forward programme of work. So going forward, I don't know what the requirements will be for the next scrutiny panel, but we will be informed of that in due course.
Okay, that's good information. What is the makeup of that scrutiny panel then? That's what I was getting at.
Who are the members on the scrutiny panel, Councillor Gwynfor? I'm not sure at this point, because there has been a change on scrutiny panel members. Not sure if Nicola is able to interject there. If not, then certainly, Councillor Gwynfor, we can go and find out and come back and make sure that that's sent out in the usual way when the draft minutes, etc., are sent out to the scrutiny panel members.
I asked the question because I was chair of that joint scrutiny, and it hasn't met since the election took place, and that worries me slightly.
Yeah, Councillor Gwynfor, I can just add some light to this. Since the new corporate joint committee was established, there's been a subcommittee of that, which is the Joint Overview Scrutiny Committee. So that is going to be scrutinised in the whole of the Corporate Joint Committee, of which the Growing Mid Wales will form part of that going forward. It's been established, the membership's been confirmed, but it hasn't met yet because the Corporate Joint Committee is doing very little at present. However, it does need to scrutinise the Growing Mid Wales. So I will take that back from this meeting. But in terms of membership, would you like me to email or pop it in the chat for you?
Well, no, I'm not precious on the membership. I'm just concerned that it hasn't met since. And I did email Nigel Bryn at one point and said what was the situation, and he's told me exactly the same response as yourself over 3 months ago, really. So it's quite concerning that it isn't still up and running, really. So yes, if you take it back, that would be great.
Yeah, if you would like to, I don't know if you still got that email in your inbox, but if you'd like to forward it to me, I'll make sure that it's I take it back and it's actioned upon.
Great stuff. Thank you, Nicola. Members, any further questions? If not, I thank you both for attending. Thank you very much. Certainly give us a flavour of where we are, and I thank you for that. Good luck, Aggie, in your new role, and thank you for your work which you've done on this. It's very much appreciated, and thank you, Nicola, for attending. Members, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thanks both. It escapes me now, but it's item in relation to appointing 2 members to a leisure scrutiny group. I'm not really sure the history behind it or what we're going to do. I don't know, Kath, can you give us a little bit more background on this?
I will just find my email that I received yesterday. Just bear with me.
Thank you. It's obviously in relation to what was tried to progress before Christmas in relation to the leisure centres, and a contribution from Scrutiny, and the way forward is my understanding, but I'm not sure how the makeup or how it's going to operate.
Yeah. The information that I've received is that there is going to be obviously a working group set up that's going to have 4 members from the economy's scrutiny, 2 members from learning and skills, and 2 members from health and social care, as you say, following what happened just before Christmas. And the terms of reference for the scrutiny group will end up being put together from that. It hasn't obviously met yet, and it's just trying to put together a new membership that sort of crosses all of the scrutiny committees.
Thank you, Kath. Members, at the end of the day, we're looking for 2 members to be a part of that group. Open to suggestions.
Yeah, I'm happy to go on if that is acceptable.
Yes, thanks. That's Councillor Gareth, I believe. Members, if you feel it appropriate, it's something in which I was involved with at the time. I would more than happy to be a part of it, but I'm obviously happy to stand aside if somebody's got a burning desire to be a part of it.
More than happy for you to be one of the 2, Chair.
Yeah, that would mean the chair and the vice chair would go forward. Is everybody happy with that, or anybody else?
Yeah, I sort of joined in from the ERC side. Well, I said I would if they were short on others, because I'm running a tight schedule on everything, but being on both, it's almost inevitable that I won't be in there, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, but again, that does highlight there is opportunity for people, if they're on other scrutiny groups, to go forward as well, isn't there? So,
yeah.
Are you happy with myself and Gareth going forward?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm happy.
If you've got a great desire following this meeting, or you think differently, please tell us. But we'll certainly we'll see what we can do to accommodate everybody if they wish to be a part of it. Okay. Searching for my agenda again. Seems to be escaping me a bit today. I've only got my one screen up. I do apologize. Here it is. Scrutiny recommendations, to receive Cabinet's response to scrutiny recommendations. It's in our agenda, and we gave everybody a piece of homework to go and study this in some depth. Councillor Peat, would you like to introduce it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is the response from Cabinet to the scrutiny recommendations that fed into the catchment review process. In sharing it with you, I'd like to thank Scrutiny for the very detailed discussions that you had in respect of a number of the catchment areas. And in addition to the recommendations you put to us, I'd like to draw attention particularly to the very detailed discussions and local input that you made into respect of the Llanganida, Llangors question for the community of Bulk, which was actually instrumental in myself and officers reviewing that again and coming to a different conclusion to the ones that we had advanced before it came to scrutiny. Each of the comments speak for themselves, and if there's any further information you request, I'm here to hear those questions.
Thank you, Councillor Peat. Members, open up directly straight to questions if you're happy with that. The documentation is before us, and I think we've given it a good read. So, members, please, questions. Okay, I've got Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess one of the points I wanted to raise was in relation to the school transport catchments and the admissions, and the fact that those are still not completely tied together. And I accept that there is an issue around catchments and the desire to have that separate from the nearest school, to give a way of kind of scoring people where a school is full. But it just seems to confuse the issue, really, and it would be, I'd be much happier to see something that's based around the nearest schools, I think, but with that bit of flexibility, which was also something that we asked for, and there's no sign that there will be that flexibility to give parents some element of choice where it doesn't increase the cost to the council. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Lucy. Obviously, Councillor Jackie is on holiday this week, so is not able to respond directly from the school transport perspective. We're currently waiting for a revised learner transport measure from the Welsh Government Minister, because any changes to our policy now, obviously, as you know from previous experience, would have to go out to statutory consultation, and then would potentially have to go out to statutory consultation again if the Minister changes the measures. I know officers are looking in some detail at the terms of the legislation that has prevented us offering a spare places scheme for the last few years. And hopefully there may be something coming forward from that. But in general terms, there has historically been a bit of a disconnect between the admissions policy and the home to school transport policy. I know to a degree that was addressed in the last administration with their review of home to school transport, and this catches up and aligns with that. But as we've seen within the discussions, that opens up further anomalies. So at this stage, we are keeping it under review. The transport team are awaiting the guidance from Welsh Government, And then when we see that guidance, they'll be looking at what the implications of that are, and we'll be bringing forward a new policy.
Okay, thank you, mate. Thank you, Chair.
I was rather, I just reinforce what Lucy's saying, really. I was hoping that this catchment maps review would go some way to helping with our school transport review, really. They do need to run side by side, in our opinion, and that was mentioned on many occasions, but it creates confusion in certain areas, and I'm not sure how, when the review of the school transport, how this is going to help, or vice versa, really. So I do agree with the flexibility or the common sense approach which Councillor Lucy is mentioning, and I understand that's difficult to put into writing, but I really do think that needs to exist. Members, are there any other questions? Karina, Councillor Karina.
Hello, I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood. Thinking about Langorse Primary School, is it that all pupils can go to Langorse as before and then carry on to Gwynafod?
The change that we made as a result of scrutiny and further discussions was that we moved the boundary for the catchment of Langorse down to the river, which replicates the situation in Crickhowell, where Llangattock is one side of the river, Crickhowell is the other. In this case, Langorse will be the catchment school for the north side of the Usk at that point, and Llangunnador will be the catchment school for the south side. Obviously, that doesn't impact in any way on parental choice. It just gives a clear indication of where, if a school was oversubscribed, where the absolute entitlement would be.
So that means that pupils from Bork, they won't be able to get free transport to Langorse. Is that fair?
No, it means that pupils from Bork will be part of the Langorse catchment, and if they qualify for home to school transport, will get it to that school. Likewise, if they continue onward to Gwynafod, because they will be in the catchment for Gwynafod, they will get home to school transport there. Conversely, because the other aspect of the school transport policy, if they opt to go to Crickhowell High School at high school level, they would get home to school transport to Crickhowell because that is the nearest high school.
Okay, thanks. So that means you've changed it slightly from the plans you presented in January.
Yeah, as I said at the outset there, that was the one big catchment where myself and officers could have made either choice and could have justified either. We came down on one side of the discussion with the paper we brought to scrutiny, but the issues that were raised by scrutiny caused us to revisit and change.
Thank you very much.
Members, are you happy for the response and the action which has been taken? Can we move on? Judging on your silence, thank you, Councillor Pete, for responding to us, and we hope that the report is a success for you. The new catchment review is a success for you. Members are moving on now to the next piece of our agenda, and we move on to our work programme, which is on page 9, item 9, and it's pages 101 to 102. There was 1 or 2 concerns in relation to items which were missing off the report last time. Councillor Allard, I believe you'd had one. Would you like to raise that now so that we can identify that we need to put it in somewhere, please?
Yes, as the extra £500,000 for schools to deal with energy issues. The I can't remember what it's called now. The process for schools
The inner workings of that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be with us before the end of this month.
Okay.
I was just wondering what happened to that.
Where are we in the progression of that, Councillor Pete or Lynette? Really, when is the terms of reference for sharing that going to be available?
Yeah, happy to come in there on that one. So officers within property services and energy efficiencies in schools are currently putting together a large spreadsheet of all our schools, looking at the energy consumption, looking at the building. It's a huge piece of work, which will then be brought to yourselves and others to look at what should the criteria be based on that information. So that information is currently being collated as we speak. It isn't ready to bring here today, but it will be soon. So that's where we are in terms of that work being undertaken. So there is a huge piece of work being undertaken at the moment with officers in property services.
Happy with that assurance, Aled?
Just a quick question, really. Schools will be signing off budgets right now, won't they? This will impact the budget setting, I assume. I would hope it does to some degree. What are schools to do with that? Because
yeah, no, that's fine. So what we've got in terms of let me just get my timetable up. Okay, the way we're at now is the funding packs were sent out early March. The finance surgeries March, April are happening. But the 31st of March, which is Friday, there's a deadline to submit their updated draft budgets to their finance officer. And it's the 1st of May when the deadline for schools to submit their governing body approved budget plans for 23-24 and beyond. Those deadlines are both set out in the scheme for finance in schools. In May and June, myself and Jane will look at all of those budget plans and respond accordingly. And then we're hoping, although it's not in the work programme, but I think that was what you wanted for discussion as well today, is to bring a report setting out the outturn position, etc., around July time. So those are the timings that we've got now. So it's the 1st of May before they need its draft budgets at the moment. So the 1st of May for that. So that's the time frame, Councillor Aled.
There's very little time to change from the draft to the final one, really, with Easter holidays and arranging government meeting.
Yeah,
it's almost impossible to vary. And there were assurances given in the budget that all this would be sorted before the end of March, but it's quite disappointing, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take that back to the property officers and mention that from scrutiny today. Thank you, Councillor Aled.
Thank you. Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, mine was a similar question, really, in that with schools having to produce their budgets. From what I can see on our work programme, we're not looking at school budgets until November, and that seems an awful long time away when schools will have produced their individual budgets shortly now. And I was wondering whether we couldn't be looking at the individual school budgets much sooner than that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to amend the work programme to bring it sooner, probably, as I say, June, early July time.
Okay.
Just for members' information, I've seen that timetable which Lynette has spoken about today, and we are earmarked to progress that in the timescales which Lynette has told us today. So yeah, so some assurance there. Danny, you had your hand up a minute ago. Are you content?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mine was exactly the same question as Councillor Lucy's, and it was answered. Thank you. Well, yeah, not answered, but yeah, raised. Let's say. Thank you.
Councillor Davids indicated.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the piece of work that property are looking at, that Lynette mentioned, I think that involves more than just the £500,000 that is put to one side for energy savings. There's a grant, I believe, Lynette, of about £2 million that's come in from Welsh Government as well.
Correct,
so they're actually looking at that as well. So it's significantly more than just the £500,000 that was initially put to one side.
Yeah.
David, just to develop that a little bit, David, that's a 2 million grant, which we weren't aware of at budget time.
No.
Okay. Aled, you're looking to come back in there.
No, not
Okay,
at the
no,
moment.
that's fine. I just thought
Apologies.
I heard you speaking. That's no problem.
Oh yeah, no.
Danny, Councillor Danny.
Yeah, thank you. Is this £2 million well, going to be allocated for the same energy saving measures as the £500,000 that was already put in, or is it £2 million for other uses in schools?
It's £2 million that's specifically for energy saving measures. This is why property are looking at those schools in the most need, for want of a better term. But that's why there's so much work involved.
Yeah,
but
okay.
We'll have to wait for the outcome of that piece of work to have the proposals to see exactly where that money is going to be allocated.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks for the response.
I knew Councillor Aled wanted to come back in, so I preempted that.
I did want to come on in about a quick question on the ALN later on, but while David is there, which financial year is that coming in? Has it come in this financial year?
It's grant funding for the 23-24.
Sorry, okay, so it's in the next financial year then.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Councillor David, for that information, and we look forward to that piece of work. It's very welcome news. Very welcome news. Aled, your comment on the ALN in the work programme?
Yeah, we've got is it in June sometime?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, June. It's just a little bit of stuff on media. I know ALN is really complex, highly complex, and you hear about a lot of legal action taking place across Wales and other and England too, that children are not getting the adequate support as they're entitled to according to legislation. Is there any legal action being directed towards Powys County Council? And possibly could that be taken up during that little bit of a session on the 19th of June? We commencing 19th of June, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Lynette, a quick comment, but we're not holding you.
Yeah, really quick, just to say, yeah, I'm sure we can incorporate all of that. You'll be aware that we've got new ALN reform, which is a huge amount. They're looking to, not delay it, but actually the delaying of the IDPs for you. So in terms of that, there's a lot of work with parents, and obviously, there are tribunals at different times. I think that Hayley can give a comprehensive report on that day around everything ALN and anything that Scrutiny would require around ALN for us to cover on that day.
You were very diplomatic there, Lynette, and I'm not going to push you on it.
Go
on. Members, any other comments on the work programme? No? Members, I believe that's the completion of our agenda today. I think it's been quite a useful meeting. Has anybody anything else to add to today?
Chair, apologies. Do you mind if I just ask a question going back to the previous item agenda? I didn't get my hand up, and I let you complete this item about the catchment.
On the catchment, yeah, no, I was expecting you to come in on the catchment, and from memory, I couldn't remember. Was Councillor Peter, are you happy to take that question?
Yeah, if I can answer it, I'm happy.
Apologies, and thank you, Councillor Pete. During the last scrutiny, if I recall, we asked for a piece of work to be done about learners leaving feeder schools in year 6 and going on to kind of other schools, and how their Welsh language was being developed, and how many of those learners were still in the Welsh stream and say in year 9, and how many were completing their education when they went on to year 12 as well. And I couldn't see any reference to that in the report, and I think that's a valuable piece of work that would help you in Appendix G with the catchment review.
Lynette's got her hand up, so
yeah, I think that came out of member development, Councillor Gary, around a transformation a couple of weeks ago, and it was quoted that a certain school had 20 pupils, 12 of whom were going to English medium now and 8. So that was a couple of weeks ago. So it is something we'll be looking at as we go forward. So happy to bring some of that information back here if that's requested too, around all of that and the retention rates, etc.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. I'm content now to complete the meeting. Obviously, members, if you wish to stay on and have a little bit of reflection, I'm more than happy to accommodate that. But otherwise, I thank officers and everybody who's attended today. I think it's been a useful piece of scrutiny today. So thank you very much indeed. So as I said, if you wish to stay on and have a quick chat, I'm more than happy to do so. Kath, you can complete the recording, and thanks for your help today as well.